So, is your schedule so busy that you just don't know how to get things done each day? Well, let's talk to a homeschooling mom with 5 kids and a business and get some tips from her.
Building spirituality, family, health, and business. This is the Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.
Hey, Giant Builders, welcome. It's Tuesday, so I'm so glad that you're here. As always, please check out our social media, like and follow us. And if you would, please share a comment on one of our YouTube videos. That really helps us out. So today's guest is Alyssa Wolf. Hi, Alyssa. How are you?
Good. How are you, Lois?
I'm fine, thank you. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. I'm a work-life balance coach for moms who are running businesses from home. And while I'm doing that, I've got my own 5 kids whom I'm homeschooling,
5 kids. What are the age ranges?
5 through 16.
Oh, okay. So that's like elementary, junior high, and high school.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. I think once like my kids got into junior high, I was like, oh, I don't know that I can do this. So kudos to you. That is wonderful. So, well, let's start there. So, how does one run a business and do homeschool? How do you work that into a 24-hour time span?
For me, I lean heavily on time blocking. So particularly do business work before the kids are awake and during the afternoon, since they're all past nap time ages, but we just swap that into quiet time. So it's free time for them to relax and they don't have to be with each other if they don't want to. And then that still leaves the middle of the day, like late morning after breakfast, lunchtime, just after lunch for homeschooling, which is plenty of time with the way I run.
Well, that's great. Okay, time blocking is a very important thing. What is something that you think is most important to time block?
Anything that is a priority to you. So that could be your devotional time, that could be your catching up with your husband every day time. If you've got a large family, you might need to time block like individual catch-ups with each of your kids or spread throughout the week. Whatever your life priority right now is. That could be movement related, exercise, work, anything.
Mhm. Well, there are more busy seasons in everybody's schedule. Do you do the same thing even with like a busier season? Say like if the kids are in sports and you're running 5 different directions for sports or anything of that nature?
I usually try to simplify the meal planning aspect then so that I am not going backwards on my own prayer time or meditation or walking. I don't want to suddenly get unhealthy just because my kids are busy. I don't think that's a good example, but I'm not going to cut and say, all right, fast food tonight for everyone. Instead, it might be, okay, preteen, you are throwing supper in the Instapot for me. Here's the cookbook with the recipe while I am getting everyone prepped for the evening activity. So that plus maybe creative rescheduling during the day. Like when I was driving my daughter to CLEP tests, all of a sudden I'm doing that right in my homeschooling time block. So I cannot homeschool right then. So I need to swap what I've got every single CLEP test day.
Okay. Yeah, so for me, on my busy times with like young kids at home, my saving grace was the crock pot. Like, okay, whatever I put in this morning, that's what we're having for dinner. So, um, so tell me, okay, so even now that my kids are all grown up, there's still some issues of like a little mom guilt there. How do you help moms with their mom guilt?
This is where it's really neat how both the mindset and the scheduling and to-do list can all work together. Because if you have set up in your calendar, this is when I'm spending time with family, this is when I'm taking care of the house, this is when I'm dealing with my job, it's really hard to stay in mom guilt mode after taking an honest look at your life when you know I am spending 2 hours with everyone here or 40 minutes one-on-one with someone here. It's like, well, how much are you expecting of yourself? A 24-hour with the family? Well, you shouldn't be. You should be sleeping. So what's realistic? So when you have it all laid out in your schedule like that, you can remind yourself, oh yeah, I'm hanging out with them here, or we're working on the parenting issues at this time. Here's when the late night, 9 or 10 p.m. chats with the teenagers are happening. I am keeping up with everyone's lives. I know what I need to know. It's okay that I went off for 2 hours and recorded podcast episodes.
No, that's great. Okay. But how do you feel at the end of the day?
End of the day, usually pretty good because I put breaks for myself in at multiple points during the day. So it doesn't work very well for me to operate on like a standard 8 hour workday and just go, go, go. So what I prefer is something maybe more like a 6 hour workday. And by workday, I mean business, homeschooling, taking care of the house, anything chore related. And then I give myself afternoon quiet time. And then I come back for supper prep and cleanup and stuff like that. So I break up my day so that I am not exhausted by the time I hit the end of it.
Hmm, okay. Too bad your kids are still in the nap stage. I could see myself taking a nap.
Well, I tell everyone to go off to their room. So the 5-year-old, if she is really tired, she could nap.
So I think I know the answer to this question, but what about like keeping the house clean?
Delegation. When I
Okay.
decided I wanted a work from home business, I realized I could not handle every single thing around the house and homeschool and keep up on the mothering and wifing and do all of the cleaning.
All right. So the children pitch in and they do their thing.
Yes,
Okay. So do
like
they have like a schedule, like eat this day they do this, or is it?
roughly, yes. As much as possible, I try to keep things on either a daily round or on a every Saturday when we typically clean on Saturdays. This is what you're going to do, so they don't have to be constantly trying to figure out what was Tuesday's chore and what was Thursday's chore, that type of a thing.
Yeah.
Besides, we want life skills, especially for launching young adults, so it's a lot easier when they're trained up from that in the elementary and middle school ages.
Yeah, that's a good point. Do you have any tips on how to get your kids to do the chores?
But like anything else that you've got a house rule as a parent on. I am the mom. We have now decided this is what's going to happen. You shall obey, and here are some consequences if you don't.
A tool that my daughter-in-laws use is this handy little scheduler, and they put down the girls' chores and their activities, and the girls can go to it and check mark when they have things done, and their schedules are on there. So if a Gigi or a Papa's there, then we can go to that calendar hanging on the wall and see what they have to do and where it's located and all that. So you might check this out. I'll put a link below for that. Well, that's good. Let me. So I think I've covered, I mean, time out. I think I covered all of your questions. Is there any other direction you want to go with the information?
Not really, whatever would be most helpful to like you and your audience since you know
Mhm.
them best.
Okay.
Or you
Um,
think you're just randomly curious.
let's see here. So do you use a physical calendar or do you use a digital calendar to time block?
Digital. That way I can move things around because I personally get very annoyed if I have to cross out and scribble. So digital lets me look a little bit more neat and tidy and clutter-free.
So do your kids adjust to this or do they like want to see the calendar too? I remember when my kids were maybe like upper elementary school, and I really didn't think about it up to that point because it was kind of like, okay, boys, let's go. And I remember one of them saying, we'd like a few minutes of notice when we're going to go somewhere. And it's like, oh, I guess you're at that age that you need to prepare. Okay. So do your kids like also have access to the calendar or how do you keep them informed?
They don't, but we have a pretty set weekly schedule. So if I'm doing podcast interviews like this, it doesn't matter too much. I figure they don't need that much prep time. I take myself to a different room, let them know right about when I'm going to do it. But for family activities, we just don't go very many places, do very many things. We're almost entirely a family of introverts. So they know exactly which day is grocery shopping day. They might ask exactly when today are you going to go grocery shopping, but that's kind of about it. So repeatable schedules means less. interfacing, I guess, back and forth, less prep time. It's all in the memory bank for them.
All right, so going to the grocery store. You take all five kids to the grocery store with you?
Yeah, no,
Oh,
not
okay.
anymore.
Okay. Like, oh man, you get a big S on your chest for that. Do you have your kids help you with the groceries as far as like picking things out and such?
Yes. So whoever I do take to the grocery store, certain people are driving the cart because they like to, and sometimes I can say, okay, you go get this many cucumbers. I'm going to be over here checking out the bananas. Oh, and you look through the oranges. I want 3 dozen oranges. That type of divide and conquer. Or I might say, you know what? I'd rather nobody with me. I don't feel like doing any more parenting right now. Yay, I have 2 teenagers. You can all stay home with them, which is a fairly new thing.
Yeah. Yeah, there again, I remember the first time I left my kids home with the oldest one, and I got a phone call that the second one went and got yogurt out of the refrigerator without letting the watching one know. And it's like, okay, guys, prioritize what is really important enough to call me. So fun things of like teaching them growing up skills. It's kind of exciting. So what does a first meeting look like with you and you're coaching a new mom?
We have a questionnaire for them to fill out every time so that I have at least a little bit of background knowledge of what she's doing, like how many kids, business or not, how many hours, that kind of thing. But the first meeting, we're usually diving more into like, give me the verbal rundown because you can't reduce everything about someone's life to what is your top frustration? What is your top goal in the next 6 months? Do you work 25 hours a week or 40? That kind of a thing. I want to hear the behind the scenes, real person view.
Yeah, the kind of the things like what really ties you up in the knot during the day. Yeah. So, well, Giant Builders, if you like this information, I have some other videos that might relate to this topic. So please check those out. I'll also have the links in the descriptions. So any closing thoughts?
If there's anything you don't like about your schedule, just remember you have the power to change it. It could be something changing in your expectations. It could be just you need another 7 minutes more before you call everyone to the dinner table. It just feels too rushed. But you get to change things, not put up with things.
Oh, that was really good. I like that a lot. Thank you. Well, Liz, I really appreciate your time and sharing your wisdom and especially that last mark. I mean, change things, don't put up with things. I'm going to make a sign and put it on my desk. So thank you. I really appreciate all of your insight and the blessings of your five children.
Thank you so much, Lois.
All right, Giant Builders, we'll see you next Tuesday.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.